Namaskar. In this episode of Dil Se, we are going to buck the trend. And the reason is that the guest that we have today has bucked the trend all her life. We're going to talk about cinema. We talk about Bollywood. And we will also talk about the journey of Bollywood. The reason why I have chosen cinema as a topic today is because I believe that the most influential medium of communication, not just in this country but in the world today, is visual cinema of all sorts, maybe mainstream cinema, maybe parallel cinema. But it's the visual impact that really changes lives, impacts lives. And in that context, I believe that that visual impact is important. Why? Because cinema represents what is happening around us. In fact, it's a mirror image of who we are. If we are violent, the cinema will depict violence. If technology takes over, the cinema will talk about technology. If there's a conflict within social classes, the cinema will reflect that. So in a way, the cinema represents who we really are and also who we want to be. It also is an aspect of aspirational India. So we have a very, very special guest today with us. And let me introduce that guest, Sharmila ji. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for calling me here.
The reason why I called you is because I think that in the history of Indian cinema, if that history will be written, you will be central to it.
Oh, no.
No, I really believe that. Look at the transformation of cinema over the years since you entered at the age of 18 in 1964 with Kashmir Ki Kali.
But before that, Bengali films also.
That, of course. I mean, I'm going to talk about that. I'm talking about mainstream cinema.
Sure.
And then now doing Gul Mohar.
Yeah.
And moving forward, I'm sure. And that's a huge span of being active in cinema. And then you were part of the parallel cinema, and cinema that reflected art in every sense of the word, with Satyajit Ray. And you did several films with, Apu Shankar, Devi, Nayak, Seema Bad. You did all that.
I did.
So, which one do you like more?
But when you introduced today, you said that cinema is a visual medium. But it's more than that. It brings audio, visual,
of course,
everything into it. And audio is as important as visual.
Correct.
Sometimes even more important.
I agree.
So, and that is why it has such traction, such resonance with the audience and people. Everybody wants to make a film, whether she's a dancer or she's a musician or she's a whatever, philosopher. But a film really brings it together.
I agree.
So I think it, as you said, and I agree, it has a tremendous capacity to enlighten, to inspire, and also there is a lot of recall. People think about it. So sorry, your question.
No, that's right. I know. Please go on.
No. But you wanted to.
No. When you talked about the fact that when I talked about visual cinema, I can't think of visual cinema today without the audio.
Yeah.
Right?
You remember
but
the
there
time...
was the Charlie Chaplin times.
Yes.
And Harish Chandra, the first movie in
1913
was silent.
Yes.
Now that also had a huge impact.
Yes.
The visual stays with us.
That's right.
Audio doesn't stay with us. But the combination of audio and visual
together, yes,
is amazing. And as you rightly said. But what do you think about working with Satyajit Ray in that form of art and then moving on to commercial cinema? Which did you prefer?
Many eyebrows were raised when I did that, especially Bengalis. You know how special they feel they are in matter of things. Working with Satyajit Ray, I was absolute novice. I was very young. I was 13, just a school-going girl.
The girl child who was married, no?
That's right.
That's
The
the first
story
one.
was about, I mean, those days, young people got married very, very young. And if they missed the timing of the wedding, they couldn't get married again. And the family would be outcast. So in this case, the marriage was decided, and the bridegroom turned out to be somewhat, well, want of a better word, mad.
Okay.
You know, he was not all there. He was behaving very oddly. And the mother of the bride absolutely put her foot down and said, no way, I'm getting my daughter married to this fellow.
Sure.
And father said, but we'll be destroyed. What would happen to her if we don't get her married? So Apu, this boy, young boy, had gone to this wedding as a guest to be with his friend. His friend was related to the family. So the friend goes to Apu. Apu is lying on the field with his flute and just relaxing. And he said, will you marry my cousin? Because this is the situation. If she doesn't get married, then all will be lost. And Apu is flabbergasted. I mean,
Sure.
Can you imagine that he's come for a break, you know, attending somebody's wedding, and is asked this question, will you be the groom? And he's not earning, he's just absolutely very, very poor.
But that used to happen at that time.
Yes, and then he's just coping with his own problem, and to take a young girl.
Yeah.
So that's how that's the background of the story, and the long and short of it is that he says yes, being a very gentle, poetic sort of a person, not very practical, and then she comes home, and then their life begins. And those days, even thinking of a nuclear family was very odd, because people got married at a very young age, but usually the girl had to live with her mother or with her mother-in-law. But living alone in a city just with your husband was really not on those days.
But that's what I was saying, that, you know, cinema reflects the times in which you live. It's a reflection of yourself.
So Ray took the liberty to go away from that time and created this nuclear family. Just, you know, the romance that follows afterwards between the two couldn't have happened in a kind of a multi-member family. So,
but which did you prefer? That's the point that I was trying to ask.
One brought me money, which is not to be laughed at, and then gave me a pan-Indian visibility.
That's true, that's true.
And this gave me a lot of a sense of achievement, pride, and those films have lived on.
Yes.
Apu Shangshar and Devi,
correct.
and Days and Nights. They have Seemabad, Company Affairs, have had a long shelf life, and it's viewed abroad as well as here. But the language being an issue, the Bengali language outside of India is not understood. So therefore, and those days subtitle was not very good, but even today, the language is a barrier. So people outside of Bengal is not so familiar, except for the outhouse.
Well, I remember, Sharmila ji, when I was a young lad, I used to go and watch Kurusawa, right? The language, we didn't know the language, but it used to be subtitled.
Yes.
But those images have stayed with us. I used to watch Ingmar Bergman.
Yes, it transcends.
So I think that cinema transcends time.
Language barrier.
Therefore, that's what's really, that's in a sense permanent. This is transitory.
That is why, despite the poverty, there was a huge argument in the parliament even those days, because it was told when his first film, Pather Panchali, was being made, and it was made under tremendous hardship. And finally the, the road, people who make road, the division of your government which makes road, they gave the money. Bidhan Chandra Rai was the chief minister. So he gave some money, and that's why it's called Pother Panchali, which means the story of the road.
Right.
Yes. So that's how the film was done. But when it was going abroad, there was tremendous opposition in the parliament saying that you are selling poverty.
Yes.
You are exporting poverty abroad. India is not like that. Like the idea was to brush everything under the carpet. And thank God, I think Nehru himself,
No, if the PMLA had been there, he would have been arrested, I think.
I have no idea.
No,
Probably.
the reason why I asked this question, and I'm very concerned about it because I watched cinema with some intent to understand our society better. Why aren't there any Bergmans anymore? Why aren't there any Kurosawas? Why aren't there any Stanley Kubricks? Why aren't there any, some of the big names, Orson Welles? We don't have them anymore.
Things move on, What it was then, it is not now. And that kind of vision, that kind of thinking, that kind of space is probably not there. But that is not to say that we are not making good films today.
No, I think we are making good films in parallel cinema. But I think in commercial cinema...
I think those two will exist.
Yes.
You cannot say that only parallel cinema will
But that was parallel cinema, according to me.
Yes, but
So
now we do not use the word parallel
That's
cinema.
of course.
It's either good cinema or bad cinema.
Correct.
And some has some entertainment value, and some probably doesn't have the entertainment value. Again, using a word like masses.
Yes, of course.
More people want certain kind of a film. And let's say that after a day's hard work and reading the newspaper, listening to what's happening around you, you probably just want to go and...
But at that time, there was no other source of entertainment also. Very limited source of entertainment.
I don't know, we used to go to the airport to see planes take off. That was entertainment for us to have a cup of coffee.
But see, if I look at your career, you got 2 National Film Awards. You got a Filmfare Award. 1976, 2003, the 1970 you got the Filmfare Award. And the reason I introduced you that you buck the trend, you always buck the trend. I mean, look at your Avishkar, look at Aradhana, you always buck the trend. And look at the splash you made.
not with intention.
I agree. But and how understanding your husband was.
People looking back sort of have a different idea. But when you're living in the present,
That's right.
it's something else. But 10 years on, perhaps this moment will be viewed differently. So that happens. You have to have the staying power to experience that. And talking about my husband, he was very different, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Very little perturbed him. He was extremely supportive, and he was a very calm person.
Yeah.
And he was not very judgmental or judging others.
No, his response to that you must be looking nice.
Yes, he was far away in London. He didn't realize what was happening here. Again, I believe questions were asked in Parliament. I had no idea that it was going to cause such a stir. As I was young, I thought I had a nice figure. I just did it for a laugh. Nobody forced me to do it.
Of course not.
It was entirely out of my own volition. In fact, if anything, the photographer was a little, he said something like, "Do you think it's all right?" or something like that. I took no notice of it. But when I saw the reaction...
Your talent has been recognized throughout the world. You were UNICEF's Goodwill Ambassador. You got a reward from the French government for the arts. You were a member of the Cannes jury. And you got the Padma Bhushan in 2013. So look at what you've done, and you were the chairperson of the CBFC, right?
That was a learning.
That was a learning from 2004 to 2011. And then you were the only person who set up the appellate tribunal, right? So that if somebody disagrees with the decision, then you can go to the tribunal. And in 2021, they've abolished it.
Yes.
This is very unfortunate.
I felt that, we did have a provision where producers, if they were not happy with the CVFC's certificate, they could go to this FCAT. But the cases were all over the place.
Yes.
Like from Jodha Akbar, it was from in Jaipur to Kolkata to Tamil Nadu, wherever. So the producer had to run from one court to the other.
Yeah.
So if there was one particular body looking at it, it would have been so much easier. So I considered myself as a bridge between the civil society on one hand and the producers, the film industry on the other, and of course, so trying to make their life a little bit easier. 95% of the people would say, do away with all censorship.
No, that's not possible.
Okay, all right. So some
very limited.
Some limited, so
Yes.
they do away with censorship altogether. And some people will say bringing censorship, more and more censorship. So
There should be a societal norm.
So should be a little way of, somewhere that we can function. So that the weekends are very important for the industry. They do spend a lot of money making this film. And for some reason, if that film is stuck, they lose a lot of money. So Fridays or Thursdays are very, very important for them. So if anything happens at that time to stop the release of the film, so in those days there used to be a lot of protests about everything, and a lot of diktats also that try and stop this film. Something as silly as Lalu Prasad Yadav, we were told to stop it. And I said, well, what is the point? So I could talk to the minister directly, and when I couldn't, I found a friend in either the joint secretary or additional secretary or some secretary who will, I'll have their ear. So I tried to keep that balance between the civil society and the...
Yeah, but see the problem, if you had an appellate tribunal, you would have a tribunal at least deciding on whether certification should have been given or not. Now, if you abolish it, then everything is in control of the government.
That too, yes.
So therefore, I think that what you did was something futuristic. But unfortunately, it's been abolished in 2021. Yes. Well, let me go back to another issue. You bucked the trend even in your personal life, because when you met him, you lived with him, and then later you got married. And I'm told that when in Paris, Evening in Paris was being shot, he came to Paris, and that's the time when he proposed to you, right? So therefore, whether in cinema or in your personal life, you always bucked the trend, and that's really, really remarkable.
By being what's the word? What did you say? Being proposed in Paris. That's bucking the trend.
Yes, it is bucking the trend when it's very those times. We're talking about those times. That's really wonderful.
Yes. I think being an actor, perhaps I'd always had a sense of timing. I felt that after meeting Tiger, being with him for a while, and I said, this is the time to get married. I don't want to get married when I'm too old.
It's true.
This is the time to, and I did. We did. And then later again...
You gifted him a Mercedes, that's bucking the trend.
Well, that was not then.
I know, it was later, but
it was, I don't know, sometime later. No, I think it was sometimes before.
Okay,
it was sometimes before. And those days, the Mercedes was 1 lakh of rupees.
That's what I'm saying.
It had a little bar, it had a little this, that, and the other. So it was, and those days you couldn't buy a car directly.
Yes, of course.
There was something called SIT or something.
You had to get the approval,
Approval from there. So it was a completely different time.
Let's move away from all the personal issues that we've discussed and move into Bollywood cinema. Now, cinema started with the males dominating the cinema. They still do. But of course, there's a movement away from that. And what I find was that really the movies were produced around the big names. They still are, right? Dilip Kumar, Devanand, Raj
Today,
Kapoor,
Ranveer
the
and-
Rajpuru Productions, they used to produce, they used to produce. And so obviously the producer was putting in a lot of money, he wanted to make money, still does. But the centrality was the male. Has that changed? Has it not changed? And what is the impact of that on Indian cinema?
People still feel it's the male actor that brings the audience into the theatre. That is changing. Because now, earlier there was more male audience.
Yes.
But the audience has changed.
Yes.
Now there are lots of young people, group of girls, women alone,
Yes.
go and see films. So that has changed. But then when you take an all India perspective and all different kind of classes perspective, then you find the male audience probably outnumbers the women
Yes, they
audience.
still do.
Because I suppose the night shows, going alone or whatever reason it does. So I think they still feel that the male actor brings in the audience, and therefore they can, and also the women audience. Like there was a film called Animal.
Yes, I know.
recently.
Terrible violence. It's full of violence.
Beyond violence.
Yes.
Beyond violence.
And it's a big
misogyny.
misogyny,
and,
correct.
It is. But there were a lot of women in the audience who said that if somebody, I want somebody to love me like that. So it's you cannot, any film that really runs a lot, you cannot really rubbish it. You'll have to engage with it, try and understand it, that what exactly is happening here.
reflects society, what it
Yeah.
is today.
So it
But
is.
Lapata Ladies has
On the
broken
other
that
hand.
record.
Only in OTT platform,
Yes, I'm
but
talking
not,
about that.
not,
Not otherwise.
not in the theatre. But yes, that's again a beautiful film.
Beautiful film.
And so is Maidan, which
Yeah,
is
so is
lovely, and which is Crew in a different way. It's absurd, of course, beyond belief, but there are three women who are, pulling off this adventure.
Yeah.
And one is landing a plane, one is breaking a safe, and doing all kinds of things together, the three of them. And the camaraderie between the three is excellent, because they say a woman is a woman's worst enemy. Not so here. So that's done
But
in
these are
such an entertaining
these are
way.
very isolated examples. And the reason why I asked you the question was, is it because of the risk of losing out on the money? Because ultimately it's the money that drives
Yes,
this, right?
it is. It
The
is.
funding of cinema and the source of funding really ties into what kind of film you want to make and which actor you want. And
Well, there are some people, usually everybody privileges commerce over art. And there are some people who want, they have a passion for making good films,
That,
and
of
then
course.
they do that. So it really depends on that. And it is possible if the money is right, if the budget is right, you can make a good film and it will run, like Lapata Ladies have.
yeah, but it's
proved
again,
that.
it's on the other. This is not. It's the OTT platform which is doing exceptionally well.
No, even in theatre,
But,
Lapata Ladies did well because it was within the budget. Whereas Animal spent a lot of money and made a huge amount of money also. And other films like that. So there is that stark difference, and I think it will continue. I don't see in the near future this is going to change. But people will strive, and a lot of younger people now coming in to make films with different kind of technique, because once upon a time we only saw Indian films. In the 90s, the world opened up. We started watching, not just us, but everybody was watching
Right.
films from outside. There was a lot of churning, there was a lot of appetite for different kind of films. The audience was changing. So now, at least in the big cities, the audience have changed. Even in the the smaller cities like Ranchi, etc., there, there's appetite. But so the smaller films will also get their money back, but not in the quantity that, say, a Ranbir Kapoor or a Ranveer
That's right.
Singh
That's what I mean.
will
That's
bring.
that's what I mean.
Yes, yes.
And see, the thing is, if as you said that you were fond of cricket, right?
Yes.
That's ultimately how you met a cricketer. But you see the transformation of cricket from the Sunil Gavaskars and the Ajit Wadekars. And
I don't think I'm qualified to talk about cricket.
No,
I
no,
think
I'm going to.
It was part of my Nikanama to say you will not discuss cricket ever. So I think that stays.
So the point I'm making is, when you opened up funding at the local level,
Ji.
you saw the Shreyas and the great young cricketers now who are at the forefront
Yes.
of our cricket. And the old, the heroes, in a sense, are the new people. Now, that kind of transformation has not happened in Indian cinema. That's the point I was making.
Yes. IPL did that for cricket. IPL suddenly found this gold mine of talent, all over India.
Yes.
From very humble background.
Absolutely.
And then they came.
Look at Dhoni. Look at Dhoni.
They started.
He came from Jharkhand, I think.
Yes, and so many Jadejas, everybody.
Fabulous
so they
players.
came and startled the whole system.
Yeah.
So,
If you give funds in the hands of a larger section of the art community, right? The creative community, I think you'll get much better cinema.
You see, this word creative itself is a very problematic word, because it's not, you cannot, at least Satyajit Ray taught me that you don't need an extraordinary budget to make a good film.
I agree.
You need extraordinary imagination, extraordinary talent, extraordinary comprehension, understand what cinema is all about. So, like this All We Imagine as Light. It's not an expensive film, but it's won the Cannes Film Award. And I'm sure when it releases here, people will flock to see it also.
But you need a platform, no? I appreciate what you're saying, but you need a platform. Where is that platform in Indian cinema?
Yeah, the platform is there. There is a kind of, there are some producers like Farhan Akhtar's team,
absolutely.
even Karan Johar.
Yes.
Sometimes,
But Karan Johar is more into blockbusters then.
For himself and others, but he has also made very good films like Razi, and I can't remember off my head just now, but he also supports a lot of small films. And Kapoor and Sons, for instance, was produced by him. So as a producer, he has helped a lot of smaller producers to come. And
if you look at, again, heroines in cinema, right, apart from the fact that the female actors are paid much less, there are very few roles for real heroines in cinema that I witness. Maybe I'm wrong.
That's changing, that's getting better. Because once upon a time, nobody would have believed in Piku, for instance, which is already a bit old film, that a girl can look after her father. Yeah. Nobody would have accepted that. But they did in that film. And it's a beautiful film and it's done well. So perception is changing. Like I said, Crew has done very well. That's 3 women, doing all kinds of fantastic things. Has done extremely well at the box office. So that will encourage a lot of filmmakers to do women-centric films.
There's a huge transformation in Hollywood, if you ask me. That kind of pace of transformation is much slower in Bollywood, but I'm sure it will come. But let me go on to another issue, that again, this is male domination. And I know for a fact that most of these males who are actors never stick on to the timing. Right?
No more.
Not the younger people, not anymore, but at your time,
yes.
These fellows used to come whenever they wanted to come.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's only, I think, Amitabh Bachchan or maybe
Shashi Kapoor was the first one who was on time.
Yes.
And Amitabh went a little ahead because he would be the first to arrive
Before
anybody else, before the cleaners came to clean the studio.
But Sanjeev Kumar?
He would be there. Sanjeev Kumar would, well, you could only suggest a time to him, but anybody, even Rajesh Khanna.
But that's changed now.
That is changed because the money is in place and nobody they can't afford somebody. So what they do now, they make a contract which says that they'll work for 10 hours or they'll work for 8 hours, beginning now. Let's say they start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and then carry on for 10 hours.
Right.
Or they start at 4 o'clock in the evening, will carry on for so. So the contract is made accordingly. So if they want to wake up late or they want to do their workout, the workout is very important. So I think Akshay Kumar's works out
all the time.
3 hours or 4 hours and then he runs for a while and then he starts working. So that's all right. But to keep people waiting for 4 hours, even if you are, I think I'll say even if you're Ranveer Singh or Ranbir Kapoor, but if you're 4 hours late, people will reconsider.
Yeah, because at your time, when you take your example, you were a mother, right? You were working 2 shifts,
yes,
morning and evening,
yes,
and you had to look after your children. If somebody comes 4 hours late or 5 hours late, your life is impossible.
Yes, yes.
Right?
You felt like killing them, but you couldn't.
Okay, let me move on to something even more interesting. If I look at Hollywood today, I find that there are voices in Hollywood which wants an inclusive America.
Really?
Yes. Black lives matter, right? And Meryl Streep and Richard Gere, top stars.
They always have. They always have.
They always have. Why is it that that's not the case in India?
I think fear element, because we all live in glass houses. We are the most vulnerable. You know, everybody knows us. Our face is well known. We don't have that kind of security. You know, most of us don't have what is A plus, Z plus, whatever security.
They don't have it in America.
The people are not so. I really don't have a answer to that.
No,
from my own.
No, it's not. And
I just feel that they are better respected. The crowd around is not so fanatical or not so. You know, here you can.
I think what we should be looking
like
at.
Salman Khan.
Yeah.
There are a couple of times his house has been attacked, not him personally.
That's correct.
So they have been arrested. But we don't know whether there might be a third attempt or not.
Shah Rukh's son, for example.
Shah Rukh's son, that was a different kind
I know.
was a more judicial.
No, the point that I'm making is that if you make a film in India which is anti-establishment, right, they will not allow the film to be.
Also, going back to your previous question, the togetherness that is required, that's supporting each other. You know, like if I go out on a limb to protest, I probably will be the only one. Or I'll have about 6 or 7 people at the most who will support me. So that coming together as an industry, as we did once upon a time, under the guidance of Dilip Kumar, Raj Kapoor. And,
yes, exactly.
And that's up. Sunil Dutt used to take us to God-forsaken place to raise funds for floods or PM funds or Chief Minister's Fund, etc. So we used to do. I mean, Ajanta Arts, that sub would ring up and we'd say, oh God, we have to go, but we did.
Yes.
We supported him.
That's correct.
But now I don't think there is that kind of a leader.
If it's Kashmir Files, it is hugely supported by the establishment. If it's film on Kerala and people going, 32,000 people going to the ISS Kerala, this thing, the establishment sort of stuff. If you make something which is slightly like in Andhi, for example, it was anti-establishment and ultimately it was clear. But if you start making something that is anti-establishment today, the person who invests will run the risk of losing all his money. So he dare not make it. And
yes,
if he
but
makes
it doesn't have to be overtly anti-establishment.
No, I'm not saying anti-establishment, it's reality of India.
Storytellers have different ways of telling a story.
I'm saying something. When I say anti-establishment, for example, if you were to make a film on the pandemic and how badly the government handled it,
yes,
right, it will be a problem. if you were to make a film,
There was a film, no? On vaccination or something.
yeah, there was a
Somebody
film. There
did.
was a film. But by and large, you know, these are themes that are the reality of India,
Yeah.
but cannot be depicted because of the politics of India. Now the industry must move away from this fear, because fear can never be the basis of any form of creativity.
There are people like Anand Patwardhan or others who are making films, but his films are not, people are not watching those films. There are films being made, but so yes, you have to walk a little bit of a tightrope here.
Yeah.
So you cannot bring on the government ire onto yourself, because it's ultimately your film won't get released.
Take, for example, Shah Rukh Khan's Jawan.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to
The
comment on
merits
the
of the
quality
film.
of the film,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was highly popular.
Correct.
The
It
reason
was.
why it's popular was, but he sent a
Message, he did, yes.
He did send a message,
So
and it
that's
was
the
very
way.
popular. So people want to see those things.
Yes, and his
But-
personal popularity.
People want to see those things, but industry is afraid to show those things. By and large, I'm not, you know, there may be
Well,
exceptions.
they'll come back to that same argument that we are not here to, you know, we are not a propaganda machine, or we are not. We are
But it's a
just
propaganda
entertain-
machine. If you propagate Kashmir fire, it is a propaganda machine.
Yeah, for some, but most
No, no.
people would want to make, you know, just an ordinary film the way they want to express.
But they should be
But-
allowed to, no?
Yes, they, by and large, they are.
No,
I mean, there are.
nobody dares make it. This is my point. You're right. There are people who do make it. There are exceptions. But by and large, people think twice in the industry
You see,
to
there,
make
there
it.
has always been a pattern in filmmaking. You know, when a film runs, so earlier, right at the, you know, going back many years, there were these inspiring films like Garam Hawa and
Yes.
you know, sort of, yeah. So that was the time, and now then recently we saw very ultra nationalistic films, a lot of anti-Pakistan films. So yeah, so that is happening, but at the
But
same
you had
time,
Tare Zameen Pe, which did beautifully.
that was some
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah.
Yes. So those kind of films are being made, like Lapata Ladies.
Yes.
And so those films will continue to be made, but at that big canvas, as you're talking about, that too will be made. So what is happening right now, perhaps we do not know. It's not that people are averse to making films.
No, they're
but
not.
it involves many lives. It's a huge machine, huge engine that supports so many people. It wins, you know, it goes abroad. So it's, you know, lives of people.
That's why these kind of films are being made on the OTT platforms much more on the mainstream.
OTT
media.
platform, yes, and also at other forums. Films are being made and they will continue to be made. And as we speak, maybe somebody is making a film like that, which will.
I hope so.
Which
I mean,
will-
but ultimately, you see, if I remember, when I was a young kid, I used to watch Dilip Kumar all the time. He's my favorite,
Yes,
quite frankly, my
yes,
favorite.
yes, absolutely.
My hero when I was
I
young.
agree. Method acting.
He's a great actor.
Yes.
And what were the themes on those films? The zamindar, you know, being exploitative, the factory manager,
Yes.
you know, and the workers rising. And Amitabh Bachchan also did some of that. And so these are the social tensions that were going on in that era were being reflected in the films. The social tensions that are going on in this era are not really being reflected in the films, is the point that I was trying to make.
That is what happens with, I mean, it's a survival mechanism. So the films, they do have the pulse of the people and the pulse of the
Yes.
ruling government of the time. So they make films accordingly. So like Maidan, for instance, is a very inspiring film. And the hero of the film is a Muslim.
Yes.
And it's dated, it's at a particular time. So you can't fault the film in any way. At the same time, it inspires a certain community. So those kind of films will be made and will run.
I
and
think
will
when the
have
politics
popular
of the
acclaim.
country changes, the industry will change. This is my personal take, nothing to do with my being in
Obviously,
politics.
the creative people will, but it is just there is no point being a hero, and you're taking so many lives
That's true.
with you. You're not
That's true.
making a
You have to be
film
careful.
only for yourself. And then if it runs into sort of law and order problem,
Yeah,
then you're
that's
sunk.
right. You'll have picketing outside the cinema hall. What's the
that
point?
sort of thing. So it's just prudent, but I'm sure also people make films for different reasons. You just don't want to make a film for an ism.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
you just make a film, love story or something simple
I
or a
agree.
travelogue.
Right.
So, but I don't think a creative instinct or that can't be stopped.
Of course not.
It's not that people of India are devoid of any
No, no, no,
imagination.
no,
or
no. On the
anything.
contrary.
So I'm sure there's a lot of churning going on and a lot of. So I'm very hopeful that the generations after generations are only improving technically and content-wise, and
Yes,
the way
yeah.
they're articulating their
I agree.
thought, and the audience is also improving.
No, I agree with you.
You
I
know?
agree with you.
So I think
In fact, one of the
all is not lost.
one of the politicians recently, who just joined the government, made a statement that I don't believe in any isms. I believe in humanism.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
And I think that's a very, very important statement for a politician to
Sure.
make. And that should actually percolate down to every section of society.
Absolutely.
Because all of us are brothers and sisters.
Absolutely,
You
and,
know,
and together, and the
and
diversity.
it's only together that we can move
It is
forward.
diversity, because I grew up in a joint family with so many influences, and that is, our memories are a touchstone. Without it, we will not exist. We will not. I mean, that is what defines our culture
Absolutely.
today. Not it.
Yes.
How
And that's
it was.
what we should embrace.
Yes.
Exactly.
So therefore, we have to be very informed about our heritage
Yes.
and how we protect and preserve those values.
It's fundamental to
define
democracy.
us.
Fundamental
Yes,
to democracy.
absolutely.
Well, let me move on to something different. Have you ever thought of being in politics?
No.
No?
No. Frankly, not.
No? Well, I thought that you were being considered for nomination to the Rajya Sabha at some stage.
Well, I wish I was, but
You were not.
I was keen at once upon
You
a
were,
time.
no? So
Yes.
therefore you wanted, basically you wanted a platform away from theatre to be able to air the views considering the independent personality that you are. This
Sure.
is what my
Sure.
understanding.
I think, yes, about 10 years ago I wanted to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. I think that Parliament has lost a voice, because what is happening today is that it's tokenism, because most of the people nominated of the caliber that you are don't come to Parliament. So I think the political class should be aware that there's no point having somebody be nominated in Parliament who just doesn't turn up.
Also, people like us should be aware, because ultimately, I mean, if you're a citizen, then politics is important.
Yes.
And we're just not mere consumers, So I think, obviously, if you have something to say, then you should be able to say it. And being in
icons like you who have something to say.
Being in Parliament is a good forum to
Yes.
be in, to voice your opinion.
For example, when I was Minister for HRT, something perhaps you know or you don't know, I introduced an amendment to the Copyright Act in which I gave the rights to the lyricist.
Yes.
That whole
Yes.
change was brought about by me.
Okay.
And if I had the support and I'd had the support of Javed. Javed
Javed,
was in the, he's the one who brought it to me and I'm the one who cleared it. So these are the kind of collaborations we want, not just from art or, creative persons, but from all sections of society. Parliaments must reflect the kaleidoscope of what India is.
I agree, absolutely. That is why the Parliament is there, to bring our points of views and our questions to the fore. Yeah.
So, the last bit, I want to just ask you that you've always lived your life in your own terms, and that's reflected in many of the roles that you've done. And like in Gulmohar, you stayed away from the family and said, no, I'm for you there, but I'm
Yeah,
on my
I want to
own.
leave, yes.
And that's exactly what you've done in your personal life, even today. And I think your journey as a young star at the age of 18 and the grace with which, without any Botox, you know, it's splendid. It's splendid. I mean, you're a person who has grown without being conditioned by any artificial.
Well, thank you so much.
Right,
Yes.
and I wish Indian cinema were like that.
They are actually. There are a lot of people. I mean, I'm just a very small
No, you're an icon,
people, but there are wonderful young people with so much energy, and I have a lot of faith in them. Yes.
the other thing I wanted to ask you was the exploitation of women in cinema, like in any other field of life, and I've seen that happening, in almost every profession in this country, and every vocation in this country. How do you deal with it? How does the industry deal with it?
Not now so much. No, because the people who are making films, the men who are making films, there's a qualitative change from the beginning when I joined to now.
When you joined, what was the situation?
I used to hear
Okay.
a little bit of this, that, and the other, but not now so much.
Oh, really?
And no. The media is there, and then
So the Me Too movement is...
No, but it happens elsewhere a lot, and I mean, what we read in the papers, that is, what comes into our that there is, and I'm sure it happens. It's not that it doesn't happen, because it's the conditioning.
These are stories which are left untold, if you ask me.
Well, it's the conditioning that begins so early in life. When you're born, you're equal, but then the social conditioning starts, you know. Women are told not to do this, and men are told to do this, you know. Women are the best compliment you can pay to a woman is pretty,
Right.
you know, men are brave. And so society has given, like Deepa Narayan, have you read this book? You must read it. It's called Chup. And it's a fact that the society has given power to men and morality to women. And then power gives the impression, or instantly you feel that you see yourself as a protector
Yes.
of... Women don't need protection.
But Hindi cinema
should
always
be-
had that, the lass who is being,
Correct.
and
That's
the big
right.
hero comes and then he rescues her.
So that is passé. So you need, the law of the country should protect you. And the men should be brought up as to be more sensitive to this fact, you know. So that it's not protection. So it's that, and then the moment something like this happens, like a Me Too moment happens, then the character assassination is the first thing
Started.
that people
And the
resort
woman is
to.
vilified much more than the man.
Yes, and that is why there are less women who will come forward
Sure.
to even articulate this problem.
That's the point. That's the
Yes.
they are being
So-
exploited, but they're silent. They're not coming
so
forward.
it's the society. Even if you go to your parents,
Yeah.
probably they'll say, well, it's such a small thing, and why do we want to make a fuss about it? What will the
But in
neighbors say?
देहात में आपकी शादी में फर्क पड़ जाएगा,
Yes,
you may not be able
yes.
to give
Or your sister will get affected, or something will get affected.
That's
So,
right.
so there is this social pressure of this conditioning which starts so early in life that the woman has to make herself invisible.
So the
somehow.
mindset of the male in India
Yes.
must change.
Yes, how she walks, what she wears, how she speaks. You know, chattering women we've heard, because it's in our, you know, what we think is chattering. Talking
Right,
too
right.
much is talking. You know. So in every which way.
No, you couldn't have betel leaf. When in our time, women could not have betel leaf. पान भी खा सकते थे.
Because your lips will be
Yeah.
rosy pink
Yeah,
or something.
that's what it is.
Like cosmetic. Yes, so many aspects the women are. So anything, like you've seen in many films, that the girl is tomboyish,
Yes.
and then moment marriage is in the anvil, or a boyfriend is in, she goes through a complete sartorial change, complete,
Yes.
you know, a behavioral change, and then she's wearing a sari, or she's so that is how society looks at women. You know, there's this distinct.
You know, it reminds me when cinema started, it's the male who was doing the woman's role.
Correct.
If I remember correctly.
In Dada Saheb Phalke's film.
Yes.
Yes, Harish Chandra.
Harish Chandra.
Right? Yes, we couldn't find not even ladies from the red light district.
Correct.
They refused.
Refused to do the role.
Absolutely. Even when I was working in film, it was scandalous to work in films.
Yeah.
People from good family.
No, the
did
people
not.
threatened you. People threatened you,
Yeah,
I know.
people said, you know, you can't work in films.
Shankaracharya, I believe.
No, that was later. That was
Later.
during Evening in Paris.
Yeah.
I was, yes, excommunicated.
That's right. But see, I see that in politics as well, which is why I bring this up. I see it in politics, I see it in our profession, I see it in every walk of life. And I think unless the mindset, there's a social transformation.
Yes.
This problem.
But I think more than films, as you're saying, which is the influence maker, is the family.
Yes.
That is the most influential in making of the.
But see, now the enormous changes that have come through law, women are entitled to the same rights as the male child, right?
Yes.
So all that is
All
transforming.
that is legal provision, but
Yeah.
actually at that nurturing stage, the family and the extensive family have to be mindful how they want to bring up their daughter.
Well, thank you very much for being here. And
Thank you.
this is a great conversation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.